What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. Equally excited today to really get into the weeds with adoption and sustainability in the Middle East and the MENA region. We've got BIA Group CEO Khaled with us here today. They're going to be talking about how they're pioneering global sustainability and leveraging their expertise in environment, energy, real estate, tech, and healthcare. I always like to start these out with a little bit of an introduction. So, Khaled, if you could give us an intro of yourself and your role within BIA, that would be fantastic, sir.
Sure. Hi, Solomon, and great to be here. So I'm Khaled Al Huraimel. I'm the Group CEO of BIA Group, and I've been with the group since the start. So about 16 years now. We started the group with an objective to tackle environmental challenges, and we've done a lot over the last 16 years in the UAE and as well as in the region. And although we started in the environment space and the waste management space, today we've become an investment holding group operating in several sectors, including energy, technology, real estate, and healthcare.
I would love if, I think that's kind of a good overview for us here, but I know, when you look at some of the key challenges that are happening right now in the UAE and the Middle East, as far as digitization, ESG, sustainability, all the things that tie in. What do you see? Because we were mentioning this beforehand too.
Yeah.
There's so much being built right now.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the challenges that you see kind of being faced? How are you guys
Sure.
solving?
Like I'll give you one of the challenges that we worked on. So in our region, in the Gulf and in the UAE, there's a lot of development happening, lots of growth happening, and this leads to a lot of environmental challenges. And one of those is waste. Here in our region, we generate the highest amount of waste per capita in the world. So that's a major challenge. So this is approximately 2.5 kilogram per person per day. So that's quite a lot. And to be able to treat that, because a lot of this waste ends up in landfills. Landfills generate methane. So a lot of emissions are generated. So this is a challenge that we face here in the region. And we've been tackling this challenge for the last 16 years as BIA Group. And I would say we're pioneering in finding these solutions over this time. So today, I'm positioned or I'm located in the Emirate of Sharjah. Sharjah is one of the 7 emirates in the UAE. We operate all over the UAE. But to give you an example, what we've done in Sharjah, we've been able over the last 16 years build the infrastructure to treat waste and recover waste, where today we've reached are we able to treat 90% of all this waste. Only 10% goes to landfill, which is one of the highest in the Middle East, definitely, and one of the highest in the world. So this took 15 years or 16 years to build the infrastructure, work on the awareness amongst the public, with the schools also. So a lot was done, and we built different types of facilities, from facilities that would treat to commercial waste, municipal solid waste, construction waste. And we also have our waste to energy facility. Now we're looking at waste to hydrogen. So a lot has been done, where we've become now, in waste management at least, the most integrated and one of the largest in our region. We're also present in Saudi and Egypt. So we've done a lot on the waste management space, and now also on the renewable energy. Energy, today there's a lot more demand for energy. So in our region here in the UAE, we've put quite ambitious target to ensure we transition to more renewable energy sources, and that is happening rapidly, and we don't depend on fossil fuels. So a lot is happening in the region to progress on the sustainability agenda.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting, and I had the pleasure of meeting, a couple of the team members with BIA as we were preparing for this podcast, and I know Firas, the other individual that I had the opportunity to discuss with, was mentioning how comprehensive it is to really make meaningful change. And like, I'm curious, like, are you guys getting reached out to from, even like government type entities to be like, hey, how can you guys really come in here, provide a comprehensive solution? And I guess the interesting thing to me is, what is the timeline? Because it's not like, oh yeah, let's do it and it's going to be 3 months and then everything's going to be perfect. It's like, this is like consistent,
Yeah.
long term.
So to give you examples, when we started in the UAE and in Sharjah, we had a target to reach zero waste. So we put a plan. We looked at best practices around the world. We visited the US, Canada, we visited Singapore, we visited Germany, different places around the world to see how is waste being treated. But then we adapted to our own requirements. We took that learning and we built our own system, where now we've been and over again this learning over 16 years allowed us to be quite good at it. And the model that we've built that is not being done yet in the region. So now we do get a lot of governments and municipalities approaching us from the region that could you replicate what you guys have done in the UAE? Could you help us manage these landfills? Could you help us eliminate these landfills and achieve a high diversion rate? And this is why we're now also present in Saudi. We operate in the holy city of Medina, where we have similar targets there. We operate in Egypt. And Egypt, we are a partner with the government there and the new admin capital. We put a target there to reach a 80% diversion rate. And however, now I believe we can do it much quicker because over the last 16 years, we learned a lot. We learned all the shortcuts now. So we can move quite quick. But to really reach these sustainable, ambitious sustainable goals, you do need government support. And this is where we believe strongly that these public-private partnerships are crucial when you're looking at tackling environmental challenges, because the private sector will come up with the innovation, will come up with the funding, but the government is the one that will come up with the policies and regulations. And they need to work hand in hand to reach your goals. And we've been able very successfully to do this in the UAE. The UAE government has been very supportive of achieving these goals. And this is what allowed us now to take that model and export it. We're also looking at several other countries that have been approaching us, including India, Uganda, Iraq, and so we are now looking at expanding outside the UAE. Already in the UAE, we are the largest waste management company in the UAE. So now our growth depends on geographic expansion, but as well as diversification. And that is why we started to diversify into other verticals, not directly related to waste management, but with the same overall vision of pioneering sustainable quality of life. So when I talked earlier about that today, we're in energy, we're in technology, we're in real estate and healthcare. So, starting with waste, how we were able to extract value from the waste to be able to build this business.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the other verticals that you guys are involved with, and maybe just give us a broad overview as far as energy, technology, real estate, healthcare. And what's interesting to me is that you guys started in kind of one direction for sustainability, and you're obviously expanding out. I'm assuming that there's some lessons that were learned with that initial kind of first use case with waste management, and then taking the things that make sense in different other industry verticals. Can you maybe walk us through just where?
100%. So when we started with waste management 16 years ago, what we were good at is using technology to achieve our targets. And that allowed us to look at, okay, this is when we started to diversify and saying, okay, let's look at technology. What can we do in technology? And we invested in our first technology company about 10 years ago. We set it up ourselves from scratch, called Evotech. And what that company does today, we do the track and trace of all the medicine in all of the UAE. So we build the technology with SAP, and we partnered with the Ministry of Health to track all medicine. This helps eliminate any counterfeit medicine in circulation. This gives access to data to the government authorities, to the pharma. We're able to know live what's in every pharmacy. We're able to know what doctors are prescribing, and patients are able to scan any medicine box. They will know if that medicine is counterfeit or not. So this is how our, let's say, digital journey started. Then we said, okay, what more can we do? Then we said, how can we Uberize waste management? How can, so then what we did, then we set up a company called Relife. It's been operating for the last 3 years. And what Relife does, we created several platforms under Real Life. One is Real Life Market. So it's online marketplace for trading recyclable commodities. We recover a lot of waste, whether it's plastic, aluminum, wood, steel, and so on. And there are recyclers there that want access to this waste. In the past, it would be quite difficult to bring them together, and there will be a lot of middlemen and brokers in between. So we eliminated that with our profile. We brought sellers and generators of waste and recyclers together with and created more value. And that business is actually growing exponentially. And we've opened now an office in India and Saudi, and our vision of Real Life is to become a global marketplace for trading recyclable commodities. In addition to that, we created Real Life Collect, which is helping the transport of bulky material and bulky waste. So also for if you have bulky material in your office or at home, you want to move it from one place to the other, that is quite similar to like the Uberize model. You'll be able to book a truck, a pickup, and different types to move bulky material around. So with Real Life, we've been able to create a digital platform that's able to help transport waste, as well as able to bring buyers or recyclers and generators of waste together, and that all helps the circular economy. And then we said, okay, what can we do more on the technology side? We really enjoyed what we were doing. And then we said, let's get more involved in the digital infrastructure of cities. And this is where now we're looking at building a data center. We're looking at a 9 megawatt data center. As you know, with the exponential rise of AI, there's just going to be more demand for data centers. So we said this is an opportunity. But what's unique about our data center is it's powered by waste. How is that possible? So now I move on to energy. We build the first waste to energy plant in the region. So the waste to energy plant generates 30 megawatts of power. That's enough to power almost 30,000 homes. So now we're looking at, okay, I take that waste, create power, and that power, I'll use it to power my data centers. So then our data centers, they consume a lot of power, powered 100% by renewables. So this is, again, on the energy side, we're also looking at closing old landfill sites. As we now head towards zero waste, we won't need landfills. What do you do with these old landfill sites? We're looking at closing them, capping them, and converting them to solar parks. So the surface area of these landfills, solar parks that can generate, our landfill that we're working on will generate 120 megawatts of power. And now we're looking at, again, to innovate further. Okay, how can we extract more value from waste? And now we're looking at waste to hydrogen. And at the commercial scale has not been done. A lot of pilot plants, maybe in different places around the world, but at the commercial scale. So we've been looking for the last several years on waste to hydrogen. It's the fuel of the future. And we've come up with very innovative technology for that. We've done some pilot plants ourselves. And it's looking very attractive what's possible on the waste to hydrogen, because what you could do with the hydrogen, you can have these hydrogen fuel cells that can power EV chargers. So then you power EV mobility. And then that goes to our other transport company. So we have a company called ION, where we have sustainable mobility solutions. So here in Sharjah, we're installing all the EV charging network. We've also built our own ride-hailing platform for only electric cars. So you can see how the group is quite integrated. So yes, we've diversified, but everything is connected. So with ION, it's been operating for several years now, and now we're even looking at, should we get into the manufacturing of EV charging stations? Should we are actually also looking at recycling EV batteries, and so this is what we've been doing. And real estate, we're looking at launching our first development very soon. We'll be launching a net zero city, a mixed-use development, and we'll be launching our first phase this year. So we'll be selling apartments, villas, office space, a mixed-use development. And also, why did we get into development? Our headquarters, we build our headquarters. You had shown it on the screen on our website a minute ago. Our headquarters is a very unique building. This is one of the most sustainable and smartest office buildings in our region. It was designed by the late Zaha Hadid, one of the most world-renowned architects. She passed away when we were constructing the building. And this building itself helps explain the DNA of BIA. You know, we are a company about the future. We're a company about beyond tomorrow. And the verticals we work with are these future-centric industries, whether it's energy or healthcare or technology. And our HQ showcases that. You know, so it has its own solar farm. It has its own water treatment plant. And it's one of the first fully AI integrated buildings in the world. We built this when we started this project over 10 years ago. We partnered with Johnson Control and Microsoft, looking at hundreds of AI use cases. So what today ChatGPT does and what AI agents do, we were already looking at doing these use cases 10 years ago.
Wow.
And we had developed so many use cases, but of course now everything has changed. You know, AI is just transforming everything. But we were already looking at, how can I use AI in running a building? How can I use AI in our recycling plants? One of our plants that we have operating for the last 4 years has robotics with AI visual recognition. So it knows, for example, it knows what's plastic, and it segregates through AI and visual recognition. So through machine learning. Again, this is much before ChatGPT was a thing. So we were investing in AI, and we could foresee how this will help us achieve our objectives more efficiently and faster. But now, of course, AI is everywhere. So now the acceleration rate, you need to really move faster in this new world right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that we'll be focusing a lot more on. How can we accelerate our growth with this technology around us? And last but not least, healthcare is another new vertical we started, where, again, the theme of BEEAH Group, like if you see this office, it's been called the Office of the Future. The city we're developing, we're looking at that being like a city of the future. Hospital, the same thing. We're looking at building the hospital of the future. So we're trying to imagine, how will the healthcare system of the future look like? And what we did, we partnered with 2 hospital groups from Boston. Boston is known as a hub for innovation. So we partnered with Mass General Brigham and Dana-Farber, and we've partnered with them to develop this hospital in the UAE in Sharjah. It's called the Jawahar Boston Medical District. You see here an image of it, the one on exactly this image. So this is the design that we've done with a famous architect called Renzo Piano, one of the top 10 living architects in the world, #1 according to ChatGPT. And so this hospital, what you see here, it's covered with a shade. That shade is actually a solar panel that creates a microenvironment under it. So you see this hospital is in a forest that we will plant. And the idea is, even the patients and the visitors, our summers are quite hot. But you can go outside, and seeing greenery around you in the middle of the desert is treatment in itself. And it's powered by renewables. So this hospital would be a net zero hospital, fully powered by renewables. And now we're working on we're looking at about 5 years till this hospital is open, the Jawahar Boston Medical District. So this is what the group has been about. We've been diversifying, expanding, but the theme of innovation and sustainability is consistent in all the verticals that we operate in.
Well, I've got to tell you, I love doing interviews like this whenever there's so much value to be shared. It takes a lot of the job away from me.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different pathways. Like, maybe I want to go down here. I think it's really interesting too when you mention net zero city and an actual smart city. What does that look like? Like, how far out are you guys from that? And I would imagine, because basically, you were going through just a massive amount of like valuable feedback loops with everything that you guys were doing. It almost seems like a lot of the work that you guys are doing can tie directly into a smart city, because it's like infrastructure that you would need
100%.
in a city.
Yeah.
So where are you guys at on that path for the smart city, and what's that going to look like?
So for the smart city, you're looking at the whole BIA ecosystem will be concentrated there. What do I mean by that? So when we're looking at the construction, looking at the road base, we're looking at using road base coming from recycled rubberized asphalt from our tire recycling plant. When we're looking at some of the other road base, we're looking at the construction waste. So we're looking at using a lot of the recovered material in building the city. We've already appointed the architectural firm Zahidid Architects. The same firm that designed our building is now designing the master plan. The master plan for the city is actually around the headquarters that you see here. So this will be announced in the next 2 months or so, the project. But we're also looking, okay, how can I power the city? So yes, building it, I'll use construction material. But how can I power it? I want it to be a net zero city. So now across the road is all my recycling facilities. So we have our waste to energy, has 30 megawatts. We're now building phase 2, another 30 megawatts. And keep in mind, 30 megawatts is enough to power 20,000 homes. So now we're looking at another plant. Also, our landfill is located there. That's going to have 120 megawatts of power. So we'll be able to power the city. Also across the road there's the sewage treatment plant, as well as the industrial wastewater treatment plant. So we'll be able to take treated water and use it for irrigation. So for that, so to create the greenery and landscaping around the city from treated water, power from renewable energy, construction from recyclable material, and then we're looking at, okay, we'll power all our EV chargers that we actually provide to ensure the mobility is in place. We're looking at how to use AI to create a better quality of life in the city. So this city will have retail component, will have boulevards, parks. It will be a fully self-sustainable city, and a model of how a city of the future could look like. It's more of a town than a city, but we call it a city because it's going to have approximately 2,000 units. A mixed-use development. It's going to have some office space. So it's an exciting project. And to be able to work on such a project and try to imagine with the partners we're working with, we are really imagining what that future would look like with all that's happening around us in terms of technology, and the generations that are being brought up in this new age, they think differently. The ones that were brought up in the internet age and now in the AI age. So we're trying to imagine how would they live and how would they, move around the city. And we're trying to imagine that we're also in parallel building a twin city, a twin digital city for this. So we even imagine, okay, should we have digital identities, so decentralized digital identities for every residence of the city, and what value would that person get from having that identity? And this is where blockchain comes into place. So we're studying, and this is where our discussions also with Hedera are coming into place. We're starting these decentralized digital identities. What services can we provide? And in parallel, building that metaverse was a thing a few years ago, but we do feel with how the speed of compute and AI that there's going to be a lot of valid use cases coming up, and so we're building for that now. We're trying to be future ready of these kids that were raised in Minecraft and living in these digital world with their friends. When they start working and start living in their homes, that's the environment that they're used to. So we're trying to imagine and trying to figure it out. We don't have the solution, but we're trying to get the city future ready.
I've got a couple of those kids that are about to fly the coop here in my house, so I'm just hoping they do okay. It scares the crap out of me sometimes. I think it's really interesting because I think, this podcast deals a lot in interviewing people across kind of the realm of blockchain and innovators, whether it be institutional and enterprise, or at kind of the builder level. One thing from like that I think is interesting, and you kept bringing it up, is like the forward thinking mentality. I think a lot of the times, and I'm curious what this is like as far as like, other participants out there that might be trying to digitize and build out sustainability initiatives. I would imagine that you have to have a real business model too. Like some of the problems that some of the other companies out there might face is like, how do we go green but also be profitable as a company? What has that experience been like for you guys? Because you have to have a real business model behind this stuff to drive meaningful change. And I feel like, in crypto, a lot of the enterprise and institutional adoption we've seen seems to have been either proof of concepts and just proof of concepts, or very reactionary to trends. And every time that it's reactionary to a trend, it never turns out well. So from your guys' end, being at the front line of innovation while also making sure it makes sense at the business level for not only you guys, but for your partners, I would sure that's, I'd love to hear maybe just a little bit on
so
that.
I think for sure, us as a private organization, achieving commercial financial targets are very, very important. So whatever we do has to make financial commercial sense. And the growth that we've experienced, we've grown about 10 times in the last 10 years, is all internal growth. Meaning, so with what we did in waste management, how we were able to recover value, be able to extract as much of that value from the waste and reinvest it year on year, that then we build a technology company, and then we reinvest that to build another company. So it's all of this internal, and every business we get into, we need to ensure it has a very solid financial model. So when we look at even waste to energy, we need to ensure, okay, can we sell the waste? Can we sell the power? So if we build this plant, so we today, that power is being sold to the local electricity authority. So that that enables us to finance that project, and so on. So it's definitely very important to have a sustainable model. So what we've seen some cities try to do, they think this can be like, to solve the problem of waste, it's a year or 2 or 3 years it can be solved. It took us 16 years. So you have to have patience, and if you're consistent and patient, you will achieve your target. But what we've seen with some cities, they would start and they see nothing happens after a few years, they start something else then. And then it's not consistent. So you have to be patient when you're looking at building something like this, especially to achieve sustainable goals. But now I think, with technology, it's just going to make it faster. And it's going to make it that learning is going to be faster and more efficient. But another point also important is looking for the right partners when you work on a project. So our waste to energy project, for example, we did not do it alone. We partnered with Masdar, another UAE company, which is one of the leading renewable energy companies today in the world. And we did a 50-50 joint venture with them. So we took their strong position in learning and renewables, our position in waste management, to build that first waste to energy plant. And that's a very successful partnership. The data center we're building, we've partnered with a company called Al Khazna Data Centers, which is a G42. If you've heard of G42, it's one of the largest digital groups today in the world and in the UAE. A lot of investment is going into AI and AI infrastructure. So we've done a partnership with them, 50-50, for building data centers. So the examples I gave in Egypt and Saudi, also partnership with the government. So I believe part of our success also getting that right partner that has the same vision, same mindset, and you work closely with them to achieve those targets.
Yep. I think one of the things also that's interesting is, I used to do a lot of digging as far as like, for crypto and blockchain and like kind of what's going on within banking and all the other stuff. And this stuff's been going on since 2014, 2015, 2016, central banks and everything else. But I did start kind of seeing, some of the ESG stuff pop up, and like these targets that, different jurisdictions have for net zero, that lead us to like this year. 2025 was a big year. 2030 was another big year, I remember. And then 2050, So I think it's really interesting. And I like one of the things that I find fascinating, and you bring up decentralized digital identifiers, are some of the use cases. Maybe we'll get a little bit into blockchain here. Some of the use cases that might make sense for integration. I think one of the pain points in crypto and distributed ledger historically has been product market fit from the blockchain end. And I guess I'm curious from your end, like where you see blockchain being a fit, technology like Hedera fitting in, as far as you mentioned decentralized digital identifiers.
Yeah.
I would imagine like provenance and transparency of what these distributed ledgers can bring, but I would love to hear your thoughts on where.
Sure. So, we've been looking at blockchain for at least 10 years, how we can utilize blockchain technology and what we do. And we've actually done some use cases already in the past. And for us, looking at the Hedera blockchain, looking at something that's secure, fast, scalable, fits in very well with what we want to do. So I talked a bit about the smart cities, the sustainable smart cities, and the identities we want to work on. Another area we're looking at is waste management tracking. Tracking that whole, especially now with what we have with the real life business, where we're able to trade all this material. What if we can also track it throughout the supply chain? So that's something we're looking at. We've also been looking at like carbon credits. We looked at voluntary recyclable credits. This is something that we've also been talking with the Definity, who are the internet protocol, internet computer protocol.
Yep.
So we've also been talking to them in the past. So we've always been in this space. We've looked at using blockchain for a track and trace of medicine. We've used it also for some permitting, that issuing waste permits. We've used also blockchain in the past, but I see today it's much more feasible today. And this is where now we're really with Hedera. We see Hedera as that right partner to accelerate that adoption more, and especially with what's happening with AI, when also digital sovereignty becomes even more important. So this is where blockchain is part of the solution. So this is where we see that the need now is becoming much more as the world goes so aggressive on AI and that data and the ownership of these digital assets, and so that's where we see the blockchain, and we're still working with Hedera to identify the right use cases, including the ones that I've mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating you bring up, and I know that you guys have been integrated with AI, since before the Chat GPT moment.
Correct,
and I think it's one of the things that a lot of people sleep on is, okay, it's great that Chat GPT works if I put a question into it and it spits out an answer. But what's going into the inputs of Chat GPT? Like, how do I know what's actually going in? And I think when you think about like, provenance and what blockchain brings for even training AI models is going to be really, really important in the future. You brought this up a little bit earlier, and I'm curious, just, if you could walk us through, like, I know that the UAE and areas in MENA have been more forward thinking as far as cultivating innovation at the regulatory level. Is that similar? Because I see it in blockchain, that they are taking kind of a leadership stance across the world. Finally, the United States over the past handful of months seems to be starting to do something. From the ESG standpoint, has that been pretty similar, just like really making meaningful change?
Yes, definitely. In the UAE, we see the same in Saudi. We also see now the same in Egypt. There's a strong drive, to meet ESG targets, and also to use technology to innovate, to move very fast. And I think here the UAE is being very forward thinking, and it's become a hub for Web3. It's been a hub for technology. We have some of the largest technology conferences in the world here held in Dubai, and a lot of these companies that operate in the MENA region, they're based in the UAE and operate out of the UAE. And especially when you're looking at digital assets, there's regulatory authorities established years ago to manage this. And you see now, again, in all the Web3 crypto space, all the main players are now either here or moving to the UAE. So you have Binance here is already, you have a lot of them living here, and because the UAE, if you've told me earlier, you visited the Dubai,
Yep.
and the UAE is one of the few places that you would find that environment of innovation, and you have cross culture, people from all over the world, religions, cultures. Everybody is working in a very safe environment, and working with this positive hope, for the future. And this is the it's a hope that there is a better future across the horizon, but we need to work together. We need to utilize technology. We need to overcome environmental challenges, and it's happening from the government, from the leadership down. You see it everywhere. We have these targets to achieve innovation, achieve sustainability targets. And again, the UAE model of how we've been able to bring people from around the world with the same goals and working seamlessly. And I think it's a model that's been successful, and this is what allows the UAE to keep innovating.
I think I want to highlight this one more time, just because I think it's really cool. But the Office of the Future, like I was looking it up even before, and there's like so many articles and stuff like that you can pull up. This one's even from 6 days ago. It's like redefining the future of office design.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what you've been talking about this entire kind of interview too has been, we hear a lot of people, and I'm sure this is the same in your industry, that talk the talk but don't necessarily walk the walk. And it seems like you guys are actually making meaningful change. What was the thought? I just got to ask, like, what was the thought process around this innovation, as far as just even the office in and of itself?
You see, the industry that we started in, which is waste management, is not to the general public, not a very exciting, high interest topic. Trash, garbage, and we wanted, as we grew and as we wanted to diversify, for us it was also important to make a statement, and this is why we designed such a building, and we wanted our office to be that office of the future, which is sustainable, which is smart, which generates hope for a better tomorrow, and this is the building is also being used also for a lot of public space, meaning we have a lot of events open to the public, that they can come and understand what we do. We have a visitor center in the building. We have events happening throughout. Another important thing that we believe in is in culture and art. So within the building, also on the first floor, we have our art gallery space that we open it up to the public, and we have art galleries, shows every once in a while. A project I didn't talk about also, we're working on a new cultural district, art and culture and fashion district, with the Sharjah government. So there's a lot of things that we're doing, and again, this is our home base, our headquarters, is where we look at projecting our DNA and what we do.
Yeah, I've seen that you guys are very active as far as kind of like the thought leadership and educational aspects out there too. I know that this was, I think, late last year that you were kind of at a corporate innovation summit with, and I want to give a huge shout out to the Hashgraph Association for supporting these podcasts and helping us to put these together and making the intro here. But talk about that as far as like, that thought leadership and that education, just briefly, as far as like,
when we started our waste journey, what was very important is awareness. People, from their homes, learning how to segregate waste, learning why it's important. So we started the BIA School of Environment around 13, 14 years ago, which over this period, we've educated over 250,000 students. And we have programs, part of the curriculum now, running in private and public schools. So as these kids grow up, they grow up with that understanding of why it's important to. So then when they become adult, it's a lot easier then. And so this is what we've been doing. A lot of that we've been doing similar programs for executives. We've worked with Singularity University, so we've done several programs here in the UAE in partnership with them to ensure our executives, as well as other executives in the UAE, start seeing these future industries and getting everybody ready. And so our role at the schools plus at the executive and government, that that we try to also get very much involved in awareness and education.
Well, I want to kind of ask you as we lead out here, what excites you about the future? And I mean, we can, maybe broadly on where you see some overlaps with blockchain technology, things like Hedera. You mentioned Definity as well. Maybe some of the work that you guys plan on collaborating with the Hashgraph Association, and then even, diving deeper into like, the ESG aspects and digitization, but just kind of broad pictures and forward-looking statements. What excites you?
Yeah, well, I think all our projects are exciting, and all are coming up. The real estate project, the hospital project, and imagining that future. But I think what's really exciting for me is how AI is changing everything, and now AI is opening so many new possibilities that were not possible before, and being able to now move much faster. So I think, and a year from now, things are going to look very different. So this is where it's quite exciting, utilizing AI for the greater good, but using technology and tools like blockchain to ensure that there is safety, there's security, there's digital sovereignty. So this is where, yes, we can go all the way, but you need to have that privacy too. So this is where we're excited to figure this out moving forward.
Well, I want to thank you, Khaled, for your time today. I want to mention real quick before we hop here to make sure that you guys give at the underscore Hashgraph a follow on X, and thank you to the Hashgraph Association for helping us to put these together. Give at BIA Group as well a follow here on X, so it's at BEEAH Group. It is a little early for me, Khaled, this morning, so I'm trying to navigate it here. And definitely check out BIAGroup.com. This has been a really kind of fascinating interview for me. I mean, so many different industry verticals that you guys are tackling in sustainability. I think it's going to be awesome to watch the BIA story unfold. And like you mentioned, the world is not going to be the same in the next few years here. And it's really cool that you guys are kind of innovating at the ground level and making meaningful change. Thank you so much for your time today, Khaled.
Thank you, Solomon. It was a pleasure to be here with you, and looking forward to you visiting the UAE again soon.
I'll have to make sure I contact you guys, and I definitely
you need to come visit our headquarters.
I definitely
Maybe have one of your podcasts here.
For sure. Hang out with me for 1 second as I ramp this down to make sure I get the recording, and thank you to our audience as well.